Welcome to the ASC Colony live stream. My name is Adam Jules, and speaking of Jules, we are doing a collaboration with Jules today. We have two members of the ASC crew down at Jules Undersea Lodge down in Key Largo, Florida, and with them, sitting right there in the middle, is our good friend Thane. He's been with us before. But now we just got a couch full of hooligans right now that are live streaming directly from the world's only publicly accessible underwater habitat. So, guys, how's it going so far today?
So far, so good. A couple of good dives in. I don't have kidney stones, so there's that.
I was about to ask if you got kidney stones this time.
I did cut my finger, however, so there is an injury. So there is that.
Yeah. Now, you can't go down there anymore then, because every time you're causing Thane some grief of what's going on.
Those oysters will get you every time.
We kind of wanted to do a special little live stream because, obviously, Atlantic Sea Colony's whole goal is to be able to kind of accomplish what Jules has already accomplished. So, I don't know. What do you guys... I guess, Brendan, I'll start with you. I guess, and Babe and Thane, whatever, it doesn't matter. But just the collaboration right now. Brendan, you're down there for longer than 20 minutes this time. So, being able to be a part of it, how does that change, or how does that affect how you want to go forward with the Atlantic Sea Colony business? Like, does it just kind of cement your beliefs on how you want to keep approaching the goal?
Yeah, I still think at some point in time we need to do a whole week down here, but that's down the road a little bit, I think. But,
yeah.
The problem with that, Brendan, is after a week, then you really don't want to come up. I was here for 4 days, and I was like, oh man, I gotta go back.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, because I'm a hermit anyway, so this works out great for me.
Really, the laundry got to be the issue, right? Because you can't have heating elements down here. So that was like, you'd have to send the lot out for laundry service and have that delivered. That was the one drive. Okay, laundry. How am I going to overcome that issue?
I guess nobody's visiting you on the work clothes.
Right, there you go. Exactly. As long as you know when the divers are going to be in the lagoon. Hey.
Yeah, if that's the case, make sure you turn those monitors off of
exactly.
Monitoring the.
I have to think about that every once in a while. We do have that. We do have the webcam, and it is, from the command van, you can see it, and people do look in and see it. So every once in a while, I'm down here doing work, and I jump in the shower and get naked, and don't get in front of the camera. Nobody wants that show.
It's better than just staring at it forever while you're there, just being like, "This is what you get. This is welcome to Jules."
I don't know. When you have my job, there's a certain comfort in just being able to stare at that monitor and see the water level and hear the gurgle, and because we have, not only do we have visual, but we have sound. So
right.
I several times an evening I just check in to make sure everything's looking good and bubbling correctly.
Even when people aren't there.
Yeah, ultimately, here's the bottom line. It's really. The worry is somewhat misplaced because once you understand the kind of the physics of what we have here, it does put your mind at ease, but ultimately if the compressor does stop running for any reason, the water does rise in here, and it doesn't really cause any, it takes about 2 hours for the water level to rise up to the shower. Once it covers the shower drain, there's nowhere else for the air to go, and that kind of stops the process. But I do have a bunch of tools and other stuff out in the box outside, and the toilet pump's kind of in the danger zone. So I do kind of like to keep an eye on it just to make sure. But as far as safety and just the physics of being down here, once you understand how everything works. Number one, we're in we're in one atmosphere of water, so we're basically it's super high tide. These guys don't know, but probably the highest tide I've seen since I've been here is happening right now. So we're probably in every bit of 30, maybe even 31, 32 feet of water here at the feet right now. But, that being said, based on the current decompression tables, we can exit and go to the surface at any time. Even the guys that spent the Guinness, we have a Guinness Book of World Record plaque over here. You can't see, but the world record is 73 days down here, and they could still get out and go right to the surface. So from that standpoint, it's very safe. We know a very important member of the Aquanaut community, Morgan Wells, who spent many an hour in here, did a study several years ago where he figured that he calculated out that 2 people could live in this habitat for 9 days once the compressors stopped pumping air in here. So that knowledge versus, understanding that, it's essentially an upside down cup where it's a positive pressure habitat. So we're pumping air in here 30 cubic feet per minute at about 96 PSI. The surrounding water pressure is it's less than 14 PSI. So very little can go wrong. And it's been down here for 35 years. So I think that's a testament to, how relatively, established underwater habitats are in terms of their functionality. So I will continue to beat the drum. People will be living underwater on a regular basis long before a colony is established on Mars. You can take that to the bank, man. When is Vegas giving odds on that? And I don't know. I'll let these guys chime in. This real interesting thing I keep looking at. I'm a big sustainable living guy, and I'm always looking at different types of unique housing. And the thing that's of interest to me now is all these fracking water tanks that are available through surplus at like $3,000 to $5,000 a piece. And I saw somebody picked up one on a YouTube channel to do something with, and they were talking about how it was waterproof and how it was designed to, and how the wells were such and such. And I'm like, man, who's an engineer who can figure out, can we take one of these things as is, put it in, 1 atmosphere and, have a positive pressure supply to that? And is that the container home of the future, So right. I really think, ultimately there's going to be regulations and so on and so forth to be dealt with. But if you had a private piece of land with a lake, that, I have no doubt that you could put a underwater house there today, and it, probably would be a very sustainable way to live and shoot when the temperature starts rising, as we see in the future, man. It's going to be nice to be underwater, I think. A very sustainable way to live and shoot when the...
Sorry, my phone went off and it cut off the audio on here real quick. Sorry about that. But yeah, God, what was I feel like I'm being put on the spot to come up with all the questions here, but that's because Brendan's the one being on that side this time.
Let me help you out. So one question I got for you is, you've been here, 2 years now?
A little over a year.
Okay.
Well, I've been working on Primal 50 for almost 2 years,
yeah, okay.
But in terms of actually working on the habitat, actually your anniversary just came around.
So what is one thing that you have seen through all the people that have come here, that a misconception, maybe?
Oh, I think everybody, kind of has this notion that, let's talk about what kind of movies we have that portray underwater exploration. Number one, there's always some stupid boogie monster, there's always some lurking in the deep, this thing that's going to kill you, which we never quite figure that out. But there's really been no appropriate portrayal of, underwater, I don't know if Bill Murray and, is going to count, but nevertheless, there's really been, in fact, we've got a movie down here that was from the late 70s. It was made by Disney. That's about underwater living, stars Tony Randall. It's actually more accurate than a lot of the more recent movies that have been made, where everybody thinks that, it doesn't take much and everything's going to go to hell, right? One little pinprick and everybody's crushed. And, and so, yeah, certainly if you're down at extreme depth, that can be a problem. But like I said, here, we're pumping so much air in here, this thing's not going to implode. The air goes out, right? If we have a leak, if a leak starts in this thing, it's another bubble. Oh, hey, we got a bubble coming out over here. What's going on? And go down. So, ultimately, again, keeping something in, when we're talking underwater living too, I don't think we're talking about scientific saturation diving. We want to make sure that this is a functional thing. And so we're talking about 1 atmosphere of water. So once you do that and you induce positive pressure, Jules is the example that it can be done, and it can be done on a long-term basis. And think about the technology that was available in 1972 when this was put together, and the type of metal that was available. And when you factor that in, you think, man, with what we've got going on in terms of modern metals, maybe carbon fiber, that type of thing, yeah, we can certainly create. Bottom line, if Bezos or Musk, well, if they put their money towards underwater living like they're doing towards getting into space, we'd be underwater living in a very short period of time. It's that simple. So what? Here I would say this: everybody is surprised when they enter for the first time. I don't think most people have a notion of what it's going to be like to come into an underwater habitat. I think they think it's going to be more sparse than it is, even if they've maybe looked at the pictures kind of when you first come up. I mean, I've seen some very seasoned divers, some very seasoned explorers come up and still be in awe and find a particular joy. So when you talk about people that are diving the Andrea Doria or who are heavy dirty research scientists, members of the Explorers Club, or going to New York and, hobnobbing with some of the top minds and explorers in the country, and they come down here and they still, find a high level of fascination and excitement and fulfillment of being able to say, I lived underwater. There's something to it. And, so I really think that, because we are the only one, because we do have the flexibility of being a private entity that can, make decisions on our own, that we have a unique opportunity to kind of inspire that next generation of underwater explorers and kind of, give these guys something to point to and say, hey, listen, we're not crackpots. It's not, pie in the sky. This piece of metal has been in the lagoon in Key Largo for 35 years, and it's still cranking. And to be quite honest with you, I think, I've talked to a number of people. There's ways that we can really extend the life. It's just a matter of, how much money do we want to put into it, and, where do we see it going? But there are ways that we can extend the life of this habitat and, make it last well beyond what people thought was possible.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that, it's been down there for, 35 years, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just a engineering, it's impressive, and it's just for the fact that there's a lot of above ground houses that after 35 years start to have a lot of problems and stuff. I mean, not only that, but I mean, this structure, this habitat is underwater. It's submerged. It has, it's living amongst much more elements than, a lot of, like I said, regular houses, and it's sustained. It's been going just fine, and which that's been one of the things that, we hear on our end, and I'm sure you've heard on your end, is it's just like, oh, well, that can't be practical because, I mean, it's underwater, salt water and water this and rust that and blah, blah, blah. So it's just like, but it's just like that you guys are sitting inside of living proof of hey, it does work, and it is working right now.
Yeah, and ultimately, it's really this habitat, for those in the know, is still considered to be probably the most sophisticated underwater habitat ever designed because of its mobility. The problem is most of the work that it did was in Puerto Rico, and it was financed by the Puerto Rican government, right? So you have a Spanish-speaking Commonwealth, or as far as the United States is concerned, and so they didn't get the same level of interest in terms of what was going on at, say, the Cousteau camp or some of the other explorers that came beyond. So we have very little moving footage of this at all. We have one filmmaker, Smokey from Smokey's Dive Store and Smokey's Dive Shop in Pennsylvania. He had a public access channel thing going on, and he came down and shot for a week, and that's kind of what we've got. But the habitat and the people that designed it and actually built it, and the story that it how it got to Puerto Rico and what it did while it was in Puerto Rico, it's pretty amazing once you dig into it. And it is kind of a testament to what can be done when you kind of have that pioneering mindset. And it kind of got lost because really what happened is, if you look at the history, about the time that La Chalupa was finishing its mission in Puerto Rico and looking for something else, or to extend its mission in Puerto Rico or the next mission, the ocean exploration program at that time was being run by the Department of the Interior, and the kind of that shift over went to the Carter administration, I believe, and they shifted from the Department of Interior to the Department of Commerce. And once the program started being run by the Department of Commerce, they started looking at a completely different mindset and really took away a lot of the funding. And so if you look at some of the reports from 75, 76, they recognized that La Chalupa exists, that it's in their repertoire or options in terms of underwater habitats, but they simply don't have the money to refurbish it after being in service for 16 months to be able to go and move and do something else. It just, the money's not available. So it says La Chalupa, it recognizes all its the benefits of it, but it says we don't have the money to retrofit it for a new mission.
Sorry, real quick. I saw the battery is dying. Let me plug it real fast.
We got to plug in.
Well, this is our backup camera. So.
Gotcha. While you're messing with that, Brendan, our good friend Marty Heyman just asked the question, are there any USOs down there? Unidentified submersible objects.
I haven't seen one.
Well, doesn't mean they're not there, Brendan.
Yeah.
True. All right. We're good now. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. But yeah, one of the things that I think would be cool, and obviously you guys are getting to experience it, is just the marine life around there. Babe, you haven't talked much. What have you got to see while you were diving all that so far?
Well, if I could identify all the fish down here, I would, because I'm not from here. But when Brendan and I went out earlier, that's one of the things. I was swimming upside down quite a bit just to get my camera that I have on my mast to pick up stuff with the light.
Okay.
So I just back in the crevices, and there's a lobster right outside this window here, over in some rocks, and otherwise just all kinds of jellyfish out there right now.
Sounds like you got dinner planned out, is what it sounds like if you got a lobster there.
Dinner?
Well,
fresh.
We kind of discourage harvesting the friends right outside our window. But I mean, the interesting thing is if you're here long enough, like I've been here for almost a whole year, and I was just telling them, I said it's about time for lobsters to come back in. And so there's a whole cycle, and the lobsters show up here at a certain stage, and then they grow up for several months, and then they go out to the reef, and then the cycle starts all again. So, right now, a lot of juvenile fish on top of the habitat, a lot of small grunts and snapper up there, and one nice sized big sentinel snapper up there. We had a juvenile Goliath grouper up there for about 6 months, but he finally got big enough to move along and took off, but it was fun having him around. So you always tend to have one or two big fish stationed up there. There's a whole group of parrotfish that come through on a regular basis. And I was just telling those guys, one of the upgrades that we've got to make in the near future is putting some outside lights, because, the light that's in here, the LED light doesn't really penetrate too far outside. And so we really want to put some LED lights on the outside that we can fire up and kind of bring in the plankton, because it is fun. Even if you take your dive light, shine it out the window, you kind of attract the plankton, which brings in some other life, and it can get pretty interesting.
Literally, there's some parrotfish out here a little while ago that were Miami Dolphin colors. Yeah. The team, the football team. What colors they were? They're beautiful.
Yeah, turquoise and red. Yeah, guaranteed. Then the one thing that happens every once in a while as well is that particularly barracuda will use the, so you get a lot of small bait fish will live in the moon pool, kind of use that structure. And every once in a while, a barracuda will come in and try to take one out and actually launch itself out into the moon pool. I'll come up in the moon pool. It's like, sorry, buddy. So I had a little juvenile one on. I had dropped the level of the water a little bit to do some touch-up paint. Had a juvenile barracuda that jumped out of the water and gave it up.
And you have manatee every once in a while coming here.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's kind of cyclical. We kind of now that the water's warming up outside, they're moving out a little bit more. But we had a nice run there for about 3 or 4 months where they were coming in quite regularly. Cool. So yeah, we have the manatee door. We stay over by the Jules dock where we have a little space they can come in where there's no curtain. And I think maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 missions ago, we actually had manatees in as the guys were coming out. They kind of passed by the manatees as they were exiting the habitat. So I bucket list is to be in here and have one swim by the window. You know, that would be cool.
That'd be awesome.
But yeah, no, I mean, it is a privilege, and I mean, it's very cool that we do have a couple. I mean, number one, we have manatees that will come in here on a regular basis, and it's a privilege to get to be able to hang out with those animals. And then we have some seahorses that live over under the dock, and if you take your time and you kind of develop the eye, fairly easy to go over there and find the 1 or 2 or 3 of our resident seahorses hanging out on the pilings over there. So that's always cool.
Very awesome. We just had a comment. Scott Mogg wants to know, is this the program Elon Musk was on recently? No, we have not had Elon Musk on the Atlanta Sea Colony live stream, but he is more than welcome to join us one of these days if we can get.
I don't think he's been to Jules.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
A lot of people that we would know have, but not
Elon.
We should outlive him and say it because.
Yeah. Actually, another comment just came in from YouTube from Top Mall Scuba. Are you affiliated with Marine Lab? You'd probably be able to answer that, Thane.
Well, I mean, the Marine Resources Development Foundation is a nonprofit corporation that is kind of the umbrella that is over everything. They operate Marine Lab. They also own the underwater habitat, Jules Undersea Lodge. They do not operate it. They lease it to Key Largo Undersea Park and Jules Undersea Lodge, which is another company that operates it. So yeah, we're part of the overall family, but Marine Lab and Jules Undersea Lodge are different businesses.
Okay. Very cool. So with the you guys are doing the Aquanaut program, so that is a 24-hour stay, correct?
Yeah. So it was in, and the name escapes me right now, but in 1963, the first person to spend 24 hours. So it's not something that we came up with here at Jules. The term Aquanaut was established back in 1963, and it was bestowed upon the first person that spent 24 hours underwater. And so we've kind of just carried that mantle. But you know, it's a unique fraternity. I mean, number one, there's not too many underwater habitats in the world right now. I mean, I think I don't want to say that for sure, but I think ultimately us and Aquarius are the only 2 fixed, permanently that are continuously operating habitats. I think there's might be one more in the Scandinavian area going on. I think there's a couple things that are going on right now, but I think they're kind of short-term missions that
Hydrolab, I think.
Yeah, so there's something there. You know, I picked up on something that's Poland or something's going on. I want an Eastern Europe kind of thing. I don't off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly where it was, but it seemed like that was a short-term project versus what we've got going on. So it's it's hard nowadays if you don't have the scientific credentials and training to be able to, and financial backing to be able to get onto Aquarius, then we're the only other option to be able to check that off the bucket list. And I do want to say this about what we're doing. I mean, ultimately, I think there's a number of things that Jules Undersea Lodge does. I mean, numbers, it just allows somebody to check this off the bucket list. I mean, if you're a diving enthusiast, this is one of the ultimates. And this is something that kind of every diver dreams about, is being able to develop gills and live underwater and never have to come up. And so this is the closest thing that you can get to that. At the same point in time, we still are an underwater habitat, and we still can produce good science, and we still are producing good science. So we do have doctors in marine biology and microbiology and other disciplines coming down here and doing science. I mean, recently Dr. Hunter Hines was down here, and he was running an experiment that was mirroring an experiment that was taking place in the International Space Station on tardigrades, or water bears, that very hardy little organism that seems to be able to withstand most everything doesn't do too well under pressure, we found out. So actually they came down here, did some tests. We left them down here for a couple of weeks. They came back and got them. They have this advanced electronic microscope that we bring down that they did some work with, and ultimately ended up being on a couple of YouTube programs. Wired and Brave Wilderness both had some information on that. And they also use that opportunity to use this as a platform, which I believe to promote marine science and marine exploration, which was they use this opportunity to do a lot of social media posting and TikTok and YouTube and so on and so forth. And they actually published a paper recently about the impact of using social media to promote these, marine science, marine conservation, that type of thing, and how it can be used effectively. And they use the experiences that they gained from down here, because they did have some, they got some really viral TikTok posts right off the bat out of here. I mean, within a day or so of posting, we're, million views type of situation. So, we're trying to really, not have the focus be on getting a pizza delivered, because that tends to be a big part of the, what everybody's talking about and being down at Jules is having the scuba diving pizza boy bring you down a pepperoni. That, hey, we still want to use this as an underwater habitat. We still want people to see it as a viable place to do. And it just depends on what kind of science you're doing. If you're a microbiologist or you're studying, invertebrates or, mangroves, there's a lot of opportunities. NASA has used these type of facilities a lot. La Chalupa 30, which occurred, several years ago at this point, was a 30-day mission sponsored by NASA to once again look at isolation. There's only a few places that they can send potential astronauts to really put them through the paces of isolation, and we're one of them. So we're really looking to continue to be able to wow divers and non-divers alike, because ultimately if you're not a diver and we put you through a Discover Scuba, as long as you can equalize your ears and follow the rope down, we can get you into the habitat for a night as well. So
you're saying I'm capable of doing it, is what you're saying?
Oh yeah.
But the Aquanaut package isn't the only package you guys offer. You just ultimately it just depends on what you want to do. If you just want the experience, so we just have what we call a Jules, and you don't get the full 24-hour experience. We check you in and check you out, and you probably don't probably hear about 18, 19 hours. So getting the going for the 24 hours and getting the certification, that's it's a little different. We do a lunch program, we do just a tour, but I was telling Brandon and Babe, our the founder, the designer, the guru of all aquanauts, Jan Koblik, he is really challenging us to develop a 5-day program aimed at middle school through high school students, where we have a group of 8 students come down with a chaperone or 2. We divide them into groups of 2, and the first group of 4 will come down to the habitat, do a 2-day mission. We have a lot of shipwreck memorabilia. We have several cannons out here, a lot of amphora. We're going to be building a lost city type situation down here, so these students be able to go out and do some archaeology work, do some work with a full face mask and communications and dredging and so on and so forth. And then at the same time, the 4 that are topside will be learning about topside operations that occur to keep an underwater habitat running, and going out into the reefs off Key Largo and doing some wreck diving and surveying there. So, and then after 2 days, we rotate, and the 4 guys topside come down, the 4 that were in the habitat go back. And by the end of the 5-day experience, you've got a lot of exposure to marine science, marine exploration. You've got a few diving certifications under your belt, and hopefully you're enthused about going out and helping us save this ocean of ours that needs a lot of help.
Marty Heyman just asked, will you make a second Nemo Garden near Jules?
Here's the problem. I was before my time, and I think realistically, if we didn't do it, it was somebody else that brought it in, and there was just an issue of materials and really just degradation. So it wasn't that it wasn't an interesting project. It wasn't that it wasn't successful to a certain extent. It's just that whatever
materials were used to construct it just weren't appropriate and weren't able to withstand essentially the salt water and the abuse that it took being down there. So, you know, I mean, anything's possible.
Right.
Because, I mean, I know people that like it. You know, like I said, I wasn't here at the time, but I know it was a point of interest. I will say this. We will be making a lot of improvements. We've done a lot of topside improvements here at Key Largo Undersea Park. So a lot of just our docks and other training facility areas have been upgraded. Now we're going to be turning our attention to the lagoon. So we're going to be doing some cleanup, getting, you know, kind of consolidating a lot of the, you know, we have had a lot of, over the years, we've had a lot of different underwater habitats and diving bells and Mark V stations and submarine stations and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of things and hoses and lines going across the bottom of the lagoon that we want to kind of figure out what everything is and consolidate that, clean that up. We want to put in a couple more diving platforms and you know, kind of make it really one of the better training areas, you know, down here in South Florida, because it's a nice place for people to have when the wind blows and the boats can't get out. It's you know, it's really good to be able to ride over here to Jules. And you know, when the weather does turn bad, you know, it's not uncommon to see 7,500 divers in here in a day getting their work done.
Very cool. I don't know, Brendan, what observations have you made so far, you know, just to kind of be in there?
I forgot my glasses topside, so I thank Dave for bringing those because that was kind of hard. I couldn't see anything for a while. Try to read it. If I get a headache, just try to read it. So make sure you check off everything before you come under, because otherwise you're, without Thanos, been in trouble. So yeah, that's probably the one thing that's really hit me the hardest so far is that thing right there.
As I said, it's like, you know, it takes a little while, but then it's like, oh, I can't solve that problem. It's like I said about the laundry, you know, there are a few things, but you know, the drawbacks are few and far between. You know, everything seems like if you put your mind, I mean, ultimately we've had to put our mind to a lot of different things. I mean, you know, a lot of people don't think about what it takes to get anything down to 25 feet of water, you know, and you know, what we put in those dry boxes, you know, and get down here is nothing compared to what we have to do. We got an air conditioner that needs to be repaired. So we had an air conditioner that wasn't working right, and did a little troubleshooting on it. My electrical guy said, you know, pretty sure it just needs a recharge, but you know, let's take a look. And so I took a look, and it was still within warranty, right? And I'm like, well, you know, geez, if it's in warranty and it's something bad, do I want to take a chance? If we recharge it, it doesn't work, then because it was like within 1 week of being out of warranty. So I was like, ugh. And so I was like, I don't want to take a chance. So I pulled it out, prepared it to take it to the surface, took it to the surface, and then had to bring it back down. And all it needed was a recharge. But you know, so when you talk about bringing, you know, a marine air conditioner down to 25 feet of water, you know, it requires a bit of thought, and I've done it 4 or 5 times now, so I'm getting pretty good at it. So the process is, number one, whatever you're bringing, and we had to bring a refrigerator down here a few years ago, and was its own little, you know, they were very happy to get it down here without warping it, you know, because it does have such big airspace in it. But you know, basically I took the AC, just wrapped it in towels, tried to fill as much of the air void as possible, put a big contractor trash bag over it, and then used a wet dry back to suck the air out of it. You know, basically pull as much air out of it as I can. Duct tape that one, then put more towels, another contractor bag, suck the air out of it, duct tape, more, another contractor bag, tape it up, strap about 100 pounds to it, put a 100-pound lift bag on it so you can regulate it, and send it. And you know, it works surprisingly well. So I brought three ACs, a new marine toilet, a new marine macerating pump for that toilet, and 36 bags of concrete have all been brought down here by yours truly at some point in time.
And you also consider too with all that stuff is you've got different size holes you got to get through too. Yeah. So thinking that far ahead too.
Yeah, so there's, I mean, ultimately, you know, as the habitat operations manager, there's a lot of small details that I'd like to fix. And then I go, oh, but I'm underwater. So might have to live with that one. And, you know, so I mean, like I said, there's no doubt in my mind that I could keep this thing working here for, you know, as long as I wanted to be working here. And then, you know, that's probably 10 years, you know, because by that time I'm going to be 70. I want to retire and hang out with my grandkids. But, you know, so there's no doubt in my mind. It's just a matter of how much money would it take and how long, you know, because, I mean, I talked to, you know, I was doing some concrete work. So I swam 36 bags of concrete down here to pour a new moon pool floor. So we just capped the moon pool with 2 inches of concrete. And that solved a lot of abuse that it had taken over the years. But I was also talking to concrete guys about some other projects, and we got around to pumping concrete. And he was like, yeah, oh yeah, we could pump it down to the habitat. You know, so ultimately, if my floors ever started leaking, I could pull up my panels, I could bring concrete down here. I could basically pour a new floor, and it would be perfectly fine. And it would work really, really well. You know, something like Linex type material. If I could pull all this carpet down and wire brush it and come in here Linex, I'd be good for a long time.
Yep.
A long time. So
spendy.
Yeah. So it's not rocket science. It's diving physics, you know, and ultimately we're an upside down cup, and if you just meet the physics requirements to keep this thing dry, it's pretty darn simple.
Top Mall Scuba just sent another question. Have you talked to the diving museum about some cooperative projects?
Well, that's a good question. And what's coming up is in, and again, over the years, we've done a lot of work with the Diving History Museum, and Jan Koblik, the founder, is, you know, part of the whole Historical Diving Society, and, you know, is writes for the magazine on occasion, and so on and so forth. So the answer is yes. And even more so, that's on my list of things to do, because right now we're approaching my 6-month deadline of where I really have to get started on my Prinole 50 project, because that was the whole genesis of everything that's going on now, is that I wanted to celebrate the 50th anniversary of this habitat. So in November 18th, 1972, off the coast of Puerto Rico, this habitat started its first official mission. And so in November 18th of this year, it'll be the 50th anniversary of the first official mission of La Chalupa. And as you may or may not know, my dad was the original diving officer, and I was an 11-year-old running around Puerto Rico at that time, having the time of my life. And so that was really what I started, you know, this whole thing to do, was to commemorate that. So the goal is to still on November 18th, be in Puerto Rico and place a placard at the beach. It's Playa Ostiones in the Cabo Rojo region of Puerto Rico. And I've actually got some Puerto Ricans that are on it. They've actually just recently put up a sign that did mention that it was the site of Prinole. And so we've got, there's still probably 3 or 4 aquanauts that live in Puerto Rico that were, you know, Puerto Rican aquanauts. There's a safety diver or 2, and there's a lot of, my mom was the secretary, my grandpa was the security guard, so on and so forth. So I'm really interested in honoring the people of Puerto Rico, because it was a Puerto Rican government project. It was financed by the Puerto Rican government. Probably one of the most important employees was Jaime Biaggi. He was the vice president of Marine Resources Development Foundation, and a Puerto Rican marine biologist who had a lot of connections and really was able to make things work. So really important to do that. But then we're also planning on having a reunion of aquanauts. So there are at least 26 aquanauts from the Prinole missions that are still alive, and I've been in contact with them. So we hope to have them here. You know, I've just got to figure out what's weekend. We've got DEMA is the 4th and the 11th, and then, you know, so I'm trying to figure out, and we're going to have a meeting recently in the near future and decide what exactly we're going to do. But we hope to have a reunion here, and I'm hoping that we will do something with the Diving History Museum to commemorate that 50th anniversary as well. So I guess that's the answer to the question. I hope so.
And DEMA's in Orlando this year too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be,
right.
So you'll have people over here anyway.
Right.
So cool. Babe, you haven't said much.
Oh, I'm soaking it all in.
You want to share your 2 cents here and your thoughts about? Because you've been here before.
Yeah. That's things. It may be little things, but just made a lot of really good changes. And he's talking about the things you can't do, but then I'm looking at the technologies that we can do. As I showed him earlier, I have my iPad, and I brought up my security cameras at my house, 1,000 miles away from here, underwater, and you're looking at a whole different place. It just
that's one of the things that you don't see that we did. Like when I first got here, the internet connection down here was marginal, and we certainly could not have done what we're doing tonight. In fact, we were embarrassed to a certain extent because we thought we could pull it off, and we had the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation down here. We wanted to do a little blurb on Ocean Day or something, and it just was, the leg was so bad that we couldn't do it. So ultimately we got our guy in here, and we had a lot of the problems that I'd say problems, but a lot of the issues that we needed to correct actually ended up being topside. So once we started really looking into some of the issues, I think we got a new router or modem down here, and basically upgraded what we had going on at the surface. So now this is the best internet connection on the entire compound. If I really want to get something done, I come down to Jules, bring my laptop, and if I got some editing to do, or I really need to get some do some surfing and don't want to be interrupted, here's the place to be.
I think one of the most impressive things that Jules has accomplished was, it wasn't that long ago, you introduced the Wheel of Mythicality on Rhett and Link on Good Mythical Morning. That was an awesome surprise.
I screwed up. I didn't introduce myself, and when I did it, actually I sent it. I said, I didn't even say my name, but it was so cool. Now, actually, I looked at that just the other day. In fact, I'm a big fan of old Rhett and Link, so that's hilarious.
Yeah, when Brennan and I saw that, because Brennan and I are big fans of that, and we're just like, no.
So
way.
my new, I'm gonna speak this into existence, because I just talked to one of the cool things. Probably one of the coolest things about being down here is just not even doing this, but all the incredible people that I've been able to meet as a result. With Ocean First, coming on board here at Key Largo Undersea Park, and with Marine Lab. We got Dr. Mickey Bacombe-Kobza, just an incredible marine scientist doing great, shark and large predator research. So she's hanging down here. I'm getting to meet her, and she is friends with Adam Savage from Mythbusters.
Oh, wow.
And I love Adam Savage. And so I'm like, Mickey, you got to get Adam down here. I'm saying, I bring Adam down. He can stay here. All he's got to do is make me a model. Just make me a new model of La Chalupa. Come on down, Adam Savage. So that, but yeah, no, I mean, it's a very cool. Here's what I tell people. Number one, I've never brought anybody down here that didn't think it was one of the coolest things they've ever done. And every time I pop my head up in the moon pool, in a small piece of my brain, it just goes, wow, this is cool. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I come down here a lot of times to clean the toilet, and it's still cool every single time.
That's awesome.
Marty Heyman just asked, was Captain Scott Carpenter there at Jules before he passed? If so, he would have loved it.
Well, no, actually, Captain Scott Carpenter, it holds the distinction of being the only astronaut / aquanaut. And not only that, he was the namesake of the Scott Carpenter Man in the Sea program, of which my dad was the director. So late 90s into 2000, they had a pretty comprehensive program here at Marine Lab where they had, if you've ever come to Marine Lab, you'll see the actual namesake of Marine Lab, the 2-person underwater habitat that used to be in the lagoon that's now a museum. But we had another underwater habitat in the lagoon. We had a small submarine that was piloted in the lagoon. We had a bell system, a lockout bell. We had a Mark V program that was going on. So, you came down, primarily it was like teacher groups, that type of thing. They came down for like a week and were introduced to the entire world of marine exploration. And, Scott Carpenter was, behind the whole thing.
and very good friends with Jan. I've had the distinction of meeting Scott one time, and I actually have a Scott Carpenter Man in the Sea program that he's autographed to my kids. So that's one of my prized possessions.
Very cool.
Yeah, Marineland just got pulled out not too many years
Yeah,
ago.
no, basically after Irma, right? So I mean, that really was Irma hit pretty hard. So I mean, ultimately, if you look at a lot of what's going on, like if you go into our compressor room, all of our compressors are 4 feet off the ground now. That's because we hope they won't get flooded next time something comes through like Irma.
Marty Heyman also wants to know if tonight's entertainment is to be watching The Abyss.
Yeah. I believe we have the DVD in here. We have basically any kind, Finding Nemo, The Abyss. It's all there. I forget. Like I said, I keep forgetting the name of this Disney movie that I've got over in the other room there. But that's a good one as well, all about underwater habitat living. It's actually, I'm gonna have to put that out there on the internet again, because it's actually one of the, for being made in the early 70s, it's probably one of the better depictions of underwater living that's ever been made.
Brendan was sending me videos earlier that him and Babe were watching Sea Lab 2020, or 2021, sorry, which I think that is what you're supposed to do, is to watch that show while you're down there. That just makes all the sense in the world to me.
All right, got any more questions over there?
I'm sure if I brought Adrian down, she'd have a million, but I'm gonna keep her away. So, it's just cool that that you guys were able to do this without kidney stones, and and the night's not over yet. So let's cross our fingers here. Let's hope you don't get anything else, like I don't know, your appendix blows up or something like that. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Thane, if he says something's wrong, just ignore him, because just make sure he completes the program. That's the most important thing. He's Babe's responsibility if anything happens.
If he gets too whiny, I just kick him out of the moon pool.
I'm sure we'll make it till 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Yes.
I have all the confidence in the world.
We got this.
Yeah.
Baby, you got anything you want to add in closing?
Yeah, just that you take anything as far as working on your home, and then do what Thane's been talking about. And I think he simplified it, because to do this, you got to be, engineering thinking as well as anything habitat. And I think he's been too modest about it. And I'm certain it's not any kind of an easy job. And he stepped into it and has just done amazing things for this place.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing even I've noticed that, following Jules on, social media and stuff is just watching your presence get to be more and more. There's more activity around the name, and just like I said, we had a laugh about the Good Mythical Morning thing, but having that outreach and before talking with Brendan, I never knew about this, but then without Brendan, I'm sure I would have came across it, just because your online presence has increased. There's a lot more activity with social media. So I mean, it's just seeing that from that aspect. It seems like the business has gone through, has gained more notoriety with you being there.
Well, I appreciate you for saying that. I mean, ultimately, it's a family thing, right? I mean, this is part of my family. For those of you who don't know, my dad lost his arm as part of this project. Now, it wasn't a diving-related accident. It was topside related, and really it had everything to do with being in Puerto Rico in 1972 and not getting the best health care at that time. And so, so ultimately, when your family makes that kind of sacrifice towards anything, it kind of sticks with you. And so ultimately, I kind of, thought that, as I started looking into this, and it really, it's kind of a weird thing. If it wasn't for the pandemic, it probably would have never happened, because I was very happy being a sports reporter on the Big Island of Hawaii. And, so it was before I was Underwater Habitat Man, I was Coach Thane, and I was very happy doing that kind of thing on social media. But when, the pandemic took away that job, because all high school sports in Hawaii stopped, and about 70% of my income was based off high school football in Hawaii. I just started looking into my history and started
kind of reminiscent about being an 11-year-old in Puerto Rico and how cool that was, and just got on YouTube and found a guy that was doing drone footage over the old site, and made some contact with him and ran into some people on Facebook who knew about it, and ran into a safety diver who had pictures, and just thought, wow, this is way too cool, and not enough people know about it. And the more I started looking into it, again, that's why I have so much passion, is once you understand the story, once you see what these guys did. I mean, these guys, not only were pioneers, but there was just not a whole lot of training. These guys were like guys off the street. Hey, remember me? I was your high school buddy from Petaluma, California. I just came down here to, St. Croix to see if you had a job. Oh, sure. We'll teach you how to dive. You can become a safety diver on underwater habitat. That's basically that's what we're talking about in the 1970s. My dad came out of Santa Barbara City College, the Marine Tech program, but it was the very first graduating class. So there was really, these guys, not only were they pioneers, they were just doing it by the seat of their pants, and they had deadlines to meet, and commitments that had to be kept, and contracts, and to that required certain timestamps to be able to get the money and so forth. So they didn't have a choice. They just had to go out and pioneer, and really, some of the most important dive table research, as far as commercial diving and deep saturation diving was done by these guys. Nitrox kind of between Morgan Wells and Dick Rakowski, this kind of, a lot of the early nitrox kind of theories came out of what was going on here. So it's just such an impactful project that not enough people know about, and that's why I'm here, is to number one, help more people learn the true story of what went on in Pry-Newell and what these guys did to make this thing run, and then just to give more people an opportunity, because we gotta take care of our ocean. We got to inspire these kids, because they got a hell of a job to do to clean up the mess that we've made, and we gotta inspire them to do that. And this is the type of thing that inspires you to go out and do something cool, and make an effort. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's one thing Brennan and I have always said is, if you get people out into that kind of environment and let them see things firsthand, that might be more impactful for them to, be more, like you said, more inspired and want to contribute more. Also, Marty Heyman says the show you were talking about is called Hello Down There.
Yep, that's it. Hell of a movie. I recommend it. Richard Dreyfuss, Tony Randall, who else is that? Vivian Lee.
He said Mr. Howe from Gilligan's Isle and Kenny Baker.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. It is hilarious. Hello Down There, yeah.
Well, I don't have anything else. I'm sure I speak on behalf of Brendan and Babe there that, not only are we thankful that you're, hosting them and letting them, or joining them for this, but just from a business standpoint too, it's great to build relationships with individuals like you, and not only having that business aspect, but friendships that can help us out, and just we share a lot of the same passions and ambitions, and just you and your business and your area there are inspiring to us as people that are trying to accomplish similar goals, and being able to point at someone and be like, yeah, this is possible. This isn't just this isn't just a pipe dream here.
Yeah. One thing I will say in closing here, though, I do have to thank you, because I remember, I think it was end of 2020, breaking into 2021. You hadn't come on yet at that point in time. I messaged Jules and I was like, hey, the website, I was saying when you guys were opening and stuff like that, and they were saying at this point in time, we're closed. And I was, so you literally, I think you saved Jules for all intents and purposes from who knows what.
Well, ultimately, like I said, what I did was I got Jan Koblik to take a harder look, because they just weren't sure exactly, what it was going to take to keep it, to reopen it after it had been closed for 16 months. And the thought of, oh yeah, we've got this 50th anniversary coming up, and wouldn't it be cool to have that open for the 50th? that kind of like went, hey, let's make sure before we make any decisions about what we do with Jules, let's make sure we know exactly what's going on. So, like I said, we brought Larry Ward, who was the maintenance guy on Aquarius for a number of years. We brought him in, and he did a top to bottom check on this. And, I got in here with him. He taught me what he knew about it. And so I learned from one of the best. I mean, there's very few of us around, so I do consider it a privilege to be one of the guys that's running an underwater habitat. Yeah. And I do consider it a privilege to, learn from guys like Jan Koblik and Larry Ward, and my dad and Ed Geiger, the one of the original designers. So I mean, I'm Seppo Kolomainen, one of the there's a lot of these old, and I think it's funny. I'm 60 years old, but I think my brain thinks I'm 35, so I call these guys old. But nevertheless, so it's incredible to be able to connect with these guys. I mean, I was an 11-year-old. I thought these guys were, these guys were Superman as far as I was concerned, all these scientists and divers that were coming around. So to be at this point in my life and have these guys, kind of say the same thing. Hey, thanks for bringing it back. Thanks for recognizing what we did. Thanks for kind of shining the light on us, at this point in our careers and lives. And, so that's really cool. It's really cool to have those interactions, to be able to hear the stories, to be able to sit in a room with Jan and talk about the history of the habitat, and then, actually some of the dives and some of the close calls that they had, that's priceless, really. I mean, it's just such an incredible honor.
Awesome. Well, yeah, once again, thanks for being a part of today's live stream and, joining us and putting up with those two and dealing with them today.
No, and I'll let you know, I can't give you too much, but I got some big YouTubers coming down in 6 days. So I don't know, probably in a couple of weeks or something, I'll be able to let you know. But we'll have another, and that's been pretty cool. I mean, that's the thing, we've got to do a little bit better job of just kind of tapping in. But we have had some pretty big YouTubers come through in this past year, and so those guys coming through. Once we had the first guy, Ryan Trahan, I don't know if you've had a chance to check that out, but he's the guy that broke my door. I had to come down and rescue him. I was like, you probably could have kicked your way out, but I appreciate that you didn't. But when once he came out and got his, I think he's up to, I don't know, it's ridiculous, but I think he got like 2 or 3 million views like within the first week or so. All of a sudden, other YouTubers like, oh, you can make money back, So we've had a steady stream of YouTubers this year come through, and so we're trying to get a little more organized so we can take advantage of that as well. So I'm going to try to be a little more on my game for this coming up. But like so, we've got these YouTubers coming up, and I got another. Can't give you details on that, but I got another really big YouTube thing that we're working on that might be a few months down the road. So, yeah.
Very cool, and we'll obviously be watching out for that.
When I can share, I will share.
yeah, we'll be sharing any of the information that you post on your socials and all that. So, having said that, guys, for Jules Undersea Lodge, obviously you can follow them on all the major platforms, your social media platforms. Jules, just Jules. I mean, you will find it. Jules Undersea Lodge. Go check that out. Also, we'll put the links to them on our social medias as well. So if you're in the area, even if you're not in the area, make the trip to go visit Jules Undersea Lodge. So, I mean, it's like you said, it's a scuba diver's deal. Not scuba diver's deal. It's a scuba diver bucket list item. So that's what you should do. And Thane even said people like me who are not, certified and people who are not very good can learn to do it and can get there. I'm gonna hold you to that. One of these days I'm gonna get there. I'll be like, I don't think you understand how inept I am. But
once you can breathe and equalize, we're in good shape.
I've been known to make simple tasks very difficult. But, all right, guys, thank you very much for joining in on this. Check out AtlanticSeaColony.com. Check out all of our socials there, our merch store, also ways to donate and all that. We have our Patreon, patreon.com, Atlantic Sea Colony. Also, thanks to our patrons real quick. Edward Haas, Brian Acosta, S. Babe Hybrid, who is sitting there right on the right there. Martin Reese and Matthew Cathy. Thank you guys for your support there. Until next time, and Thane, we will definitely have you back on again. But until then, guys, we will see you on the next live stream. We will see you later.
All right, go on.